The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy Movie Club, the show where your favorite nerds sit down and talk about some movies. I am your host, Jarod Bachman Stubbs, and joining me, as always, is my cinematic partner in crime, my cinephile to the end. We got the one, the only, the incomparable, the devilishly handsome, the not-so-new guy anymore. We got Devin Armour, motherfucker!
We're back in movie club.
I thought you were about to like full Will Smith, Wild Wild West, like you were just about to do like a hip hop recap of the movie club
not
podcast.
That talented, no.
Oh, no, I think you could do it
with Will.
I think you could do it.
The Wild Wild East.
We're back, guys. We're back.
It's gonna be a big nut bust.
I can barely contain my excitement right now, so I'll let the clip speak for me. And to anybody who listens to this show and you don't watch it, and that's all you get sometimes is just the audio of that stuff. I really hope I haven't accidentally caused any car crashes with the spider woo, because I feel like it could be really easy for someone to just have this shit up loud and just wah, wah, wah. Anyway, it's February. It's Black History Month. We're doing Jordan Peele this month. We're doing Jordan Peele for Black History Month this year. And we are starting with Jordan Peele's first soiree as a writer and director. His two movies that he has out so far, we're getting a third this year, which we will be covering whenever Nope comes out. But these are two of my favorite movies. Honestly, every time I watch Get Out and every time I watch Us, which will be our next episode, I was like, this is everything I love in horror. Like, I'm not a horror guy by trade. That's not my jam. That's not my go-to. But like this kind of horror and thriller type stuff, this is my jam. And I'm so excited to talk about it.
Dude, I'm the opposite. Thriller, horror, like all that stuff. Like all month of October, almost every single day watching a horror movie, whether it's like so bad that it's good or just like genuinely really good. And I'm excited to do these two movies. And when does Nope come out?
Let me look that up. We're getting a trailer during the Super Bowl, I think.
Oh boy. So
it's right around the corner. Nope, release date. July 22. So yeah, expect a review for that when it comes out. But before we get too deep into this movie, we got to give a big shout out to our sponsors, the lovely folks at SundaysBloodyMary.com. As you guys have heard me say before, I'm a Bloody Mary guy. Bartender by day. I love making Bloody Marys from scratch. I typically make myself Bloody Marys from scratch whenever I'm making myself one, but not so much anymore with the Sunday's Bloody Mary mix. As I've said before, the spicy mix, I feel a sneeze coming and I got to power through it. The spicy mix, favorite, hands down. That spicy Caesar flavor is absolutely delicious. If you're not a spicy person yourself, they have a mild mix. They also have a vegan mix if that's where you fall as well. They have a rim salt, a subscription box that'll get you 2 jars a month at a reduced cost. Also, the pickled garnishes with the asparagus, dilly beans, and okra, and other Bloody Mary accoutrement. So if you're trying to hook yourself up with some of the most badass Bloody Mary supplies on the planet, go to sundaysbloodymary.com/shop. Use code TNAP at checkout, TNAP. You get 10% off your order and you help out your favorite nerds. Devin,
Go get your Bloody Marys, guys.
go get your Bloody Marys. Next time you're in studio, I'm making you a Sunday's Bloody Mary.
I'm totally fine with this. Don't threaten me with a good time.
Oh, I will. Devin, you got some numbers for me.
So, on February 24th, 2017, this movie is almost 5 years old, which feels crazy to me. But
Right?
directed by Jordan Peele, as you know. We got Allison Williams, Lakeith Stanford, Daniel, I don't think I'm saying it wrong, Coulier?
Kaluuya and it's
Kaluuya?
Stanfield.
Couldn't read my own handwriting. And then Catherine Keener and Bradley Whitford. It's got a 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb, a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, and on a this budget was $4.5 million. Pretty modest.
Wow.
4.5. And domestic box office clocks in around 255 million.
That's a profit.
Yeah.
Hot damn. I did not realize, like,
I don't even know.
compared to some of this movie's contemporaries, that's kind of a shoestring budget.
I don't even know how many percentages that is. Like,
It's a lot. It's a lot of money.
No wonder, like, I don't think this is gonna like stop for a very long time. Like, I think Jordan Peele has like a feel for narrative and like structure and message and theme. I don't know, man. I think we're gonna be looking at numbers like this and like comparing or like going over the cast or like what these movies are rated. Like Jordan Peele movies for a long time.
I hope we are. Like I said, he's one of my favorite people working right now. You know, like, I don't know. At the beginning of the year, pretty much all of my New Year's resolutions are based around the things that I watch, read, and listen to. And that I want to do a better job at keeping up with the things I like and not falling behind on them. But more importantly, I do want to broaden my horizons. And I do really badly want to consume more horror so that I can be a little bit more educated on it, because horror movies have never been something that really appealed to me that much. Horror, but like, I like horror stories. You know, I've read some horror books. I have, dipped my toe into horror comics. I love the No Sleep podcast, which is just every week they do like a couple like horror audio dramas. Like I'm not opposed to horror as a genre, as a whole. It's just horror movies have never really wrote me in, and the ones that I do like, I fucking love. Like Get Out and Us, probably my two favorites. The Fear Street trilogy, which might end up being October movie club because we didn't have time to do it last year, and dag nabbit, we're gonna do it this year because those three movies are incredible. Like,
Never
and
seen
it's
it.
that. Oh my god, dude, it's so good. It is so fucking good. It's my favorite kind. Like, I love horror movies that are like the attention to detail and motif and like visual symbol. I love horror mystery. Like, that's my favorite thing. And I love whenever it feels like they're like with a supernatural story, be it supernatural via like magic or dark magic or anything like that, or supernatural via like science fiction type stuff. Either direction you take that, whenever there is an underlying mystery to the horror, I am enamored completely. And like one of the things I was nervous about going into talking about the Jordan Peele duology, or duology for now. Again, obviously we get Nope in a few months. Is that I get so excited about the literal text of these movies And I'm afraid that like we're gonna gloss over the very poignant social commentary going on in these films. We won't, but like I'm very like there's a because it's amazing, and he's such a master of telling a compelling literal story,
Hmm.
like what is on the page, not putting any subtext or looking at the symbolism. The literal narrative is just as fascinating as the underlying social commentary, metaphorical narrative. And I think it's something that he does very well. For example, he has a writing credit on the 2021 Candyman. And like again, it's when the horror is a mystery and it's evolving and we're figuring stuff out, and there's like a big grand conspiracy behind the horror. Oh, I love that shit. That's why I love Fear Street. Like Fear Street was immediately like it's a horror mystery and there's a grand conspiracy, and I was like, okay, I'm in. You win me over completely. Hell, that's the reason why I spent so many years being super into Five Nights at fucking Freddy's. Like because it was like, oh, like how do you get to the bottom of the mystery? I was completely enamored with the potential prize of solving the enigma, right?
Hmm.
And that's one of the things I love the most about Get Out is you Peele does such a good job telling us all we need to know for the story to function, and that is it. Like he gives us only enough to make this story make sense. Beyond that, the how the science works, how long they've been doing it, who discovered it, like there's a whole lot of questions that you can do nothing but speculate on.
Hmm.
And Jordan Peele adds two very fascinating uh, bits of lore to Get Out that are that is exclusive to behind the scenes his audio commentary and bonus features. Where it's like two very big lore nuggets that he just sprinkles in that's just there, and we have no way of like knowing it without that, which again is brilliant. I want to know everything about this world,
Yeah, absolutely.
and that is in double that for what's going on in us.
So sorry. I'm kind of getting over something right now.
No, you're good.
Ugh.
But like it goes double for what goes on in us, and again we'll get to that. But yeah, I've been talking for a minute, Devin.
No, I mean,
your thoughts?
as far as like the world building goes, like I love like the micro and the macro of like the micro being like the niche horrifying order mindset of this like very small suburban town. And then obviously like the macro of the city, but even bigger than that, just like the macro of like societal norms, I guess, and
Yeah,
like social injustices, everything like that. I think he does like I think they complement each other really well. And we talked about this briefly in the audio commentary. Um,
there are two sides to a coin. One is we'll talk about this more in the review, and the other side is as we said in the audio commentary.
it's worth it. But yeah, like the complementing each other with like the micro and the macro, like isolating Chris Washington, being so like alone and just like one step at a time, not like one step at a time, one step at a time, one step at a time. Not only just making him like more and more uncomfortable, but like kind of like breaking him down a little bit, like making him feel like he's going freaking crazy.
Yeah,
I think,
like that gaslighting is there, and with the social commentary stuff, white guy, uh, you know, again, this is very much like not my lived experience, but like I've listened to other voices talk about this kind of thing, and uh, tell other Black movie content creators and other people of color to please, we would love to work with them. We're just small and have access to nobody, and I'd like to. I'd like to have guests on this show. Period.
Yeah, accurate.
This is a very isolated show.
Mhm.
Movie Club exists in like its own weird pocket dimension. We don't really get to hang out with other people like the main show and Knights of the Nerd Republic does. The number one contender is different because we just have Schmodown people on from time to time. But they're good. And in the same way, the literal narrative and the subtextual social commentary are equally interesting. The social commentary has like 18 different interpretations that are very well on display. Like, in the same way that you have the very explicit exploitation of Black bodies running throughout it, like in the way that, like through the lens of Rose's family, there is that, like, I'm not racist because I don't think that I see people of color in this very specific scenario, Black people, as like less than or inferior or KKK whatever bullshit. We hear Dean like explicitly admonish Hitler. With all his Aryan race bullshit, and he proved him wrong. There's not a like we hate Black people kind of racism there.
Mhm.
It's that implicit racism. It's that like that stuck up like white liberal racism
Mhm.
that is so much the problem, where it is a matter of a cultural appropriation brought into a very literal sense, where you have that one like the bigger dude who kind of had like a bad case of Alex Jones neck in the one scene where he was like, like Black is fashionable, and it's like, like it's cool, it's hip, it's now, like it reminds me of another project Lakeith Stanfield has been in, like that one episode of Atlanta. I know you've never seen Atlanta,
Mhm.
but like there's that scene where Ern and his girlfriend, in air quotes, are like at this like big event that is mostly like where the person hosting the event is this very privileged white guy who is fascinated with African and African American culture, where he's doing like the cultural version of, I would have voted for Obama for a third term if I could,
Mhm.
where it's that I'm glad you like this thing, but there are people who exist within this culture that supersede your skin deep understanding of this culture. So that runs very deep, and like I said, like the commodification and almost gimmickification of Black bodies and Black people. I think there's also a very clever allegory for how to exist in like middle class to upper class, like high society, Black people have to completely change like their entire being in those settings, where like again quite literally where we see Andre's body being piloted by that Logan guy, where
Mhm.
like we saw Andre at the beginning of the movie, like he had a beard, he was, like his whole affect is like completely changed by the time we see him post coagula
Mhm.
procedure. So like he, to fit in with all of these uppity rich white people, completely changes as a person. So like there's social beats that are very clear, and when I say unsubtle, I don't mean that to admonish the film, but it's done in a very like it's done in such a way where it very clearly wants you to notice it.
Yeah.
And what you take away from it, mileage may vary. But yeah, like I said, like the social commentary here is so brilliant, and the same goes for Us. I cannot wait to talk about Us because, in my opinion, Us, the literal text is really deeply fascinating because it's more grand scale, And I think the subtext and the metaphorical version of the story is even more fascinating because I do think on some level it is more subtle. And we'll get
Mhm.
into that when we talk about Us. Uh, with regards to trying to like crack the code, figure out what's going on, and those two little lore nuggets Peele has in the bonus features and in his audio commentary, we learn that the Armitages, however, what Rose's family,
Mhm.
uh, are direct descendants of members of the Knights Templar, which again, which we get hints to, which with her brother, whenever he kidnaps Andre, and later whenever Chris steals the brother's car, he has a Crusader helmet in the passenger seat, which he wears to cover his face while he's kidnapping these people. Uh, the Knights
Oh, wow.
Templar, huh?
I said, "Oh wow."
Yeah. The Knights Templar is something that the Ku Klux Klan also idolized. That's kind of, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I am wrong, someone in the comments. But if I'm not mistaken, that's where like the knight verbiage and how they kind of like borrow from like medieval type motifs comes from. Because the Crusaders, group of like white Christians pillaging and annihilating the Middle East, trying to wipe out Islam. So you have that element. So like you have that trickle down of supremacy bleeding in, and the specifics of the order that the Armitage family belongs to is that it's called the Red Alchemist Society. Uh, which I just think is that's a cool fucking name.
Yeah, it sounds like something Batman would go up against.
Right?
The
Right?
Red
Now,
Alchemists.
did you notice, Devin, how everyone at the party is wearing red?
In
Get out. Like whenever like leading up to the
yeah,
pseudo slave auction, uh everyone, be it their glasses, their lipstick, their earrings, their ties, everyone is wearing some subtle amount of red.
I wonder if
So
they dabble with alchemy.
they might. I think that would be an astute observation and a not terrible guess to say that they might. I just realized the other chair is directly in the go. There we go.
Shove it. There you go.
Yeah, it was stuck in the carpet. And I kept moving it around in like a giant square. Uh, so yeah, I think that's super fascinating. Like, I want like, I don't. Jordan Peele does not strike me as somebody who plans on making many, if any, sequels to his work.
Yeah, if they're not all connected already, I don't think. Unless he
Yeah,
puts
and
like a like a glass with like split and unbreakable. Like not even like that though. Like I don't know. Like what if
I
Rod popped up in another movie someday? I'd be pretty okay
if
with
Rod could be the Nick Fury glue
it. Oh
that
my
holds all
god.
these movies together. Like if someone is at an airport and they get Rod of the TS motherfucking A patting them down, oh, I will stand up and cheer in the theater. Like
That'd be sweet.
I will throw my popcorn at somebody. I will dump my drink on myself. That is just a moment of sheer glee for me.
Part of me hopes
Uh
that like this time he gets like close to cracking the case, but then it ends up being like the complete opposite thing. Like I think that would be hilarious instead of him just like calling out the plot again.
And that's
Rod's
another
just like,
thing. That's another thing with
that's the point.
Rod is that like the way that even though like one of the detectives he talks to is a black woman,
No, he still
they
doesn't
still don't
believe him.
take him seriously. They still
Yeah.
don't take him seriously. They don't give a shit. You know? And another thing here at play is how black missing person cases
Mm-hmm.
go unsolved and barely investigated to such a heinous degree. It is an absolute travesty, and that is another one of the many failings in our legal system. Things like that specifically, which again is here. It's at play. It's a part of the deep, metaphor and symbolism here. But yeah, I'd love more Rod. I would love more Rod anywhere I can get him.
It's like a new Stanley.
Yeah. The Jordan Peele social commentary horror universe. But going back to some of like the symbols and stuff, we were talking about the deer at the
You
beginning of the
pointed that
movie.
out. That was I didn't even catch that whenever I saw it. But yeah, the deer. Oh wait a minute. Are you talking about the deer they hit with the car, or the deer like trophy head?
Well, it all comes back to the idea of like, it's a trophy hunting animal,
Yeah.
and like it's completely helpless while Chris watches it just slowly die, and how Chris would have obviously the deer is dead, but like the deer that's mounted in the like coagula pre-op room would have
Mm-hmm.
watched Chris's demise. Just it's stuff like that, where like everything is so deliberate. Nothing is by accident with a movie like
Yeah.
this. Like that goes without saying. And you and I, we kept hooting and hollering during the audio commentary with like when you know the twist,
Yeah.
when everything turns, you know. And I do call it a twist because obviously anybody who's ever seen the movie before goes, oh, the Armitage family is up to something bad. And there's something terrible going on here. And when I Googled the movie, it said it was a horror movie, so something terrible is about to happen. Obviously, there's something wrong. I call it a twist because I don't think anyone would expect it to go to that level.
Yeah, like, it wasn't
Like
quite Shyamalan, but it wasn't like it was it was like a twist and a half. At least like not that they
yeah.
were evil, but like the usage or like the ideology behind like the procedure essentially. Like I don't think anyone thought it was like that.
If you were to if I was watching this movie for the first time
Mm-hmm.
and someone said to me, what do you think the obviously evil affluent white family is going to do? Like what do you think their plan is? I don't think my answer off the dome would have been they're a secret society descended from the Knights Templar that is involved in a sci-fi level brain transplant ring that is moving their old white bodied brains into black bodies for eternal life. That definitely would not have been my hypothesis going in. Like what are they doing? It's definitely going to be, the specific nature of their plot.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone could no scope
I
without any
think
knowledge
you
of what's going
I
on.
think reasonably you could like safely guess that like the mom like hypnotizes them to act a certain way.
Exactly.
But outside of
That's
that,
not even scratching the surface of what they're doing.
yeah, like there's a throwaway line like right before the first scene with the blind man comes in where literally just freaking lost it. It was coming and then it was out.
Well, you think about it. You think about it. Uh, but yeah, no, I love it's just it's so clever. It's so clever. I love this movie so much. It's okay. I'm rusty with this show, and I'm just like I'm getting to that
You're
like
rusty.
I oh no, I'm falling into that loop of like I just want to keep talking about how much I like this movie for like 2 hours, and that just be the only thing I have to say. Uh, with so okay, okay, I'm bringing it back. I know words. Um, I love performance wise with this movie. I love the like quiet, sinister nature that they only have. Like, how do I put this? They don't, and none of them, everything they're doing is awful, obviously. None of them feel mustache twirly villainy except for Rose and her brother.
I think Rose at the end, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, by the time like she is officially like we know for certain she's a part of this,
Hmm.
and like the makeup department. Okay, I think they make Rose up differently post reveal because
Yeah.
she looks significantly paler and
Hmm.
more gaunt. Like she looks a little. I would almost even say vampiric, right? Where like she
Cold
doesn't
skin.
cold skinned, you know, like she kind of looks like cold and undead a little bit post. You know, I can give these keys to you, right, babe? Uh I love that. I love her brother. Jesus Christ. You know, her brother is like not to cinema sins this movie because I don't think you can really cinema sins it very much in good faith. These are one of those movies that like if you're gonna try to like cinema sins it, it requires you to deliberately not want to understand the metaphor.
Yeah. Like I don't think you can just be like dismissive of him completely, or just
It
say like,
dismisses of anything in the movie,
yeah,
you know, like in any type of like oh logically type bullshit. Uh, her brother is so mask off the entire time. Like the fact that they're all trying to be like, yeah, I would have voted for Obama for a third term, you know, my dog, my guy, my man. Uh, he's like laying it on so thick, and I do think it's genuine on some level. What's coming from Dean, but then like you juxtapose it to her brother, who's like a full on like eugenicist, who's talking about like he's like the power of your genes, you'd be a fucking beast.
beast, man.
Like, hey, you
Have
know,
you
you have
pushed
the
yourself?
no pussyfooting around. You know, like it's like the way he immediately goes to like your genes. You know, you be a like it's almost like the Snyder or Steiner math, like WWE, just like you know, but I'm a genetic freak and I'm not normal. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my god, YouTube it when we're done. Steiner math, Jesus Christ, you will laugh your ass off. But stuff like that, where there's little hits. It's like something is not right here. Another little thing that I only noticed this watch is that Georgina and Grandpa, well, Grandpa inside of the groundskeeper guy, the man with the iconic sprint.
Yeah.
Uh, he he's wearing a hat and she styles her hair specifically to cover the
The big
incision.
ass scar.
Yeah, the huge scar, which again, there's things you don't notice when you watch movies until you have them like on a screen, like not even a foot away from you with headphones on. Like there's like a really tiny sound effect whenever the cameras go off that like break the hypnosis. And like I said, I did it in the audio commentary, but there's just like a really sort of like that I never noticed before that like very like made your hair stand up.
World NG sound.
Yeah.
World NG sound.
On the small list of nice things we said about that movie. But right next to that is how I was like, oh, well, like she styles her hair a certain way. Grandpa's wearing a hat. Logan is also wearing a hat during his scene, during the party. And it occurs to me, I'm like anyone who has been
Oh yeah.
coagulated
Mhm.
is covering their scalp up. And I like, again, it's little things like that, little attention to detail type things. That I absolutely love. Another one that I think is really clever is how her weird ass brother is talking about jiu-jitsu or whatever the hell UFC MMA stuff they're talking about. Is he's talking about you got to be 1, 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of your enemy. You know, that whole thing. And flash forward to the end of the movie when Chris is trying to escape and they're like bare knuckle brawl. Every time Chris reaches for the door, I'm just going to call him Cletus. Cletus kicks the door.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, and there's a moment where they cut to him noticing that he keeps throwing his right leg against the door with all the force he can muster. And then Chris has like the little, I think it's like the fork from the tea set. He reaches for the door knowing he's going to kick and then right through the knee. Like it's little things like that. Every line of dialogue in this movie is important. You know, if it's not something that lends to the allegory about race and prejudice and unconscious bias and the objectification and commodification of black bodies, it is playing into the like the literal narrative. Like, hold on, I had it. Hold on. Agula definition. Like even that.
Coagula? Like, it's a real word?
Yeah, well, because it's like that's the root for coagulation. Like the melding of something. Like even that, like, because you hear coagulate, like, oh, that sounds cool, you know? But like everything here is just so goddamn cool. The whole Jesse Owens thing, like those are one of the like that is on the list of that has to be on the list of like the top 10 most satisfying things to notice the second time you watch a movie.
Really? You really like the thought and like
because like the first time you watch it, you're just like taking in everything. So by the time that you're like, oh, okay, grandpa's in that guy's body, and then like so like again, it's one of those once you know, and you go back, and it's oh yeah, my dad's claim to fame is that he lost to Jesse Owens. And now and like so like that's probably the moment that the birth of this whole fucked up idea is from. That like
I did not think
he's
about
like
that.
he's like pendulum swinging on the other side of Hitler's bullshit. He's like, oh yeah, he got up there and proved Hitler wrong, and when he proved Hitler wrong, he said, yes, that's because they are physically superior, they are better at athletics, and like it is almost equally fucked up belief to what Hitler is saying. So like it's like, oh, okay, so if we like commodify basically these like souped up sports car versions of human bodies, the way that Roman Armitage is looking at it, you are kind of resetting how you go about race relations. So we should all try to like hijack these bodies. So like that's the moment he decides to start like, well, how can I give myself this athletic prowess? So I think that's the moment that Grandpa has the idea. It's the reason why you see Grandpa running the whole time because he wants to beat Jesse Owens' time.
You getting these ideas from somewhere? Because like, if not, I think you're just brilliant.
Well,
Just picking up on every single like.
I'm not the only person who's ever said that, but like, once I like after I like, oh, okay, this is what they're doing. Absolutely, yeah. I was like, oh, like
100%.
yeah, like I was like, oh, okay, I see the point of all of this. It's the same thing with us. Like, there's little like moments in the narrative that when you think about it, once you know what's going on, is really poignant. I just, fucking love this
I
movie. You
almost,
know, like,
oh man, you're making me. I feel like I need to watch Us once on my own, and then also watch it like for the commentary. Because I feel like I was underprepared for like the amount of like attention to detail, just like constantly. Does not seem to let off the gas very much for like things to end up being like significant to some degree. So I don't know. I wish I would have watched like a bigger breakdown. I feel like I'm missing out.
well, again, like this is the movies like Get Out is exactly what I would point somebody to anytime someone is trying to do some type of discussion and breakdown and like have like some kind of like dialectical conversation about film media and film as art. Because you can have people who go, you're reading too much into it. And like people who make the whole like English teacher meme where
Mm.
like, you know, it says, I want a pet bird. And the English teacher goes, they want a pet bird because they want to be free and flight is a symbol of freedom. And, you know, it's like, or maybe they just want a bird. And it's like, no, they never just want a bird. Fuck that. If they just want a bird, it's boring as shit. This is awesome because this movie, every line has subtext. All the text has subtext, and every time you turn around, there's another really cool inversion or like a really brilliant way of like really in a very poignant way, like distilling certain issues and concepts down to like their rawest form. It's so good. It's so good. And like the end, we were talking about the ending and the alternate ending. You know, Jordan Peele said that the alternate ending was the original. That was the plan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was in the wake of one of far too many unjustified police shootings. Uh, you know, Black Lives Matter type move, the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, I don't want to say in its infancy, but not as powerful as it was circa 2020 or 2021. And it he
Didn't he
wanted
say it was like a little too bleak?
yeah,
Like he
he said
basically
I want to
wanted to
give us
leave
yeah,
like I don't think he said like room for hope, but it was something like
to that effect.
yeah.
And I think there's something really interesting because whenever he starts strangling Rose, the scary sound comes and she starts like wildly grinning at him for a moment while he tries to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's her either seeing or hearing the car.
And he's just kind of like hyper fixated and doesn't notice.
Exactly. Because the only audio we have is like the music and like sound design type stuff. nothing around him until the cop car or TSA car is pulling up in front of him. Like, it's not when it's within feet of him that you hear the woo go off and he like slowly gets away from Rose. And I think Rose in that moment either sees or hears that car. And in that moment, she realizes, as has been the case for the entire movie, her greatest weapon is her privilege.
Yeah.
That no one is going to walk up to this scene and go, "Ah, yes, you're the bad guy." Like, who in their right, like, again, like, who in their right mind would walk into a room and see someone getting strangled and assume the stranglee was a part of, like, again, this evil white supremacist cult that's harvesting black people to use as like meat drones. You know, that's not exactly what you think.
The cop is also a red anarchist.
Alchemist.
A red alchemist.
I unfortunately don't think the Armitage family is super into anarchy, unfortunately. It'd be a lot cooler of them if they were, but
Just want to watch the world burn.
But yeah, I think it's a really poignant moment because there's that sweet release you get when the door opens and it says airport on it.
Yeah. You're like, thank
And,
God.
And Rod gets us like, consider the situation fucking handled, right? Where it's at like, he's safe. It's okay. He can just go home. Like, it's, and like literally, like, Rod is just like Deus Ex Machina at the very end of the movie. Like, he is a dictionary definition of Deus Ex Machina. He literally just shows up and saves him. And
He
but
sounded like, so like.
But the movie earns that completely.
Yeah, he
like,
did his
again,
detective
like,
work. He
and
knew,
like, well,
he knew
not,
where to go.
not even the detective work element, but like, there's this underlying, like, throughout the movie, there's a dark satire to it as well. You know, where like, aside from the parts of the movie where like Rod is just being very funny, you know, just because like he's like the rapid fire delivery is, you know, hilarious. There's also like just the absurdity of it, you know, like everything is so absurd. It is kind of a satiric comedy, and then there's that other side to it. And Jordan Peele even said, he said, you know, horror and comedy are kind of inextricably linked, and I think he's very wise for thinking that and saying that. So like when Rod shows up, like on the wings of the fucking eagles from Lord of the Rings, basically, to swoop in and save Chris, there is a moment of like legitimate catharsis when it says airport on the side of that car.
Yeah, he kind of saves him twice. He saves him from like the current situation, and then also saves him from like what the alternate ending could have been.
Yeah. You know, like the alternate, the most unrealistic part of this movie, and I'm not, this is going to sound like a joke and it's not funny, but like the most unrealistic part of this movie is the part of the alternate ending where he doesn't get killed by those cops in the street. Now, again, not to rush to the defense of like, you know, cops who do that kind of thing, but also everyone's soaked in blood and he's choking somebody. So,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
but we know as the audience, he's innocent. He's fighting for his fucking life. And it's like, there's that element of like, oh God, watching this movie for the first time. Like, I would love to watch someone watch this movie for the first time in 2022. And again, while he's like slowly walking away from strangling her, woo! And just to watch someone's face sink. Right? to see somebody go, oh no,
Hmm.
knowing the imminent danger he would be in. That's something I would love to see. But like, Chris ends up becoming a martyr and someone who is in the way that many black men end up becoming, symbols for change at the cost of their own life.
Hmm.
I am reminded of one of the dumbest things I've heard a human being say in my life whenever Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, thanked George Floyd for his sacrifice. And I was like, what did you just say out loud in a room full of people?
Jesus.
Like, he's not, like, he's become a martyr, but like, this wasn't sacrifice. He was murdered. It should not require the cold-blooded murder of somebody to make the world more aware of a civil rights issue. And I think that it's poignant that Chris would have been a similar martyr, where, like he says in the alternate ending, I don't care, I stopped them.
Hmm.
All Chris is concerned with is the fact that this horrifying, terrifying horror story is over. It is not about guts and glory. It's the fact that it's done.
Hmm.
And, and like Rod said, he's like, we don't have much to work with since the whole place burnt down. And that's another very subtle detail is that
Yeah.
whenever Dean is like through the operating room, they knock over one of those weird ceremonial candles. Now, and again, that's one of those like, when you're in power like that, when you have influence and wealth and privilege on your side, as long as you get rid of the dirty details, you're gonna get away with it. Like that was the thing. Like I've wondered for a while, like, does he fall into the candle or does he deliberately try to set the house on fire?
I remember
if he-
whenever we watched it, I was kind of just like, that's kind of like rough. Like it wasn't the smoothest candle knockover ever. Like it was a very much just like smacking the pole.
Yeah,
So if it was intentional, like, brilliant and plays to the point you were making, yeah.
and it's and again, like that's such a there's every little thing you can dive into here. But like that's such an interesting character beat for Dean. His
Never wanting to
wife,
cover it up.
his wife, and his two children, and however the hell he's related to the art dealer, are all right there. There's a good chance this whole thing is an inferno before it's like, and by it, that they don't notice it until it's too late.
Yeah.
Like how much like surgical equipment or like any type of like like anesthetic there could be in like the basement underground where the black mold is. Like they're literally molding people into black bodies, the black molds for them to work with. Like he says that earlier, there's a bunch of black mold down there.
Hmm.
Like that whole place could literally explode if there's anything like in a CO2 tank.
What
So
happened
like
to the
he's
mom? Did she die?
yes, and I wanted to talk about the Sunken Place before we wrapped up as well. Uh she he comes up after he killed Dean and incapacitated the brother,
Hmm.
and she sees him and they both make eye contact with the teacup and the spoon.
Yeah, and he knocks it off the
They
table.
go for it, he knocks it off. They get into a fight. She has the knife. She goes to stab him and he like catches it with his
Oh,
hand.
that's right.
And then
Yeah,
he muscles the knife out of her and slits her throat.
yeah, she's dead.
Uh
Well, then, yeah, Dean didn't know how, like, the status of literally anyone else before he just did that.
no. So like Dean cared more about hiding what they had been doing and covering the tracks of the Order of the Red Alchemist more than feasibly the rest of his family. Like, they really make it sound like their whole operation died with that family. Like,
I
what
don't
does that
know.
say about Dean that he was like so desperate to cover it all up? Like, he
Yeah,
risked
but like
everyone else.
just like the video that like the grandfather made, like the one that Chris was watching before like he put the cotton in his ears. Like
Another great symbol, the inversion, where like he uses
the
this
cotton.
symbol of slavery
Yeah.
to.
But like whenever the grandpa was like talking in that video, like it sounded like this like almost like procedure has been around for a long time.
A long time, yes, but it also sounds like they were only recently perfecting it. Like,
Yeah.
look at uh,
We only saw
grandpa and
three
grandma.
successful ones.
Like, that's the earliest they've done it,
Yeah.
is grandma and grandpa. And the only other person we've seen it done to that we have seen is Andre into
Yeah.
Logan. So somewhere in there, you would assume there's more people because Rose has all those photos. But by the same token, who is to say that maybe they've slowly been perfecting the procedure? You know, like maybe it's been around for a while, but like Georgina, who's one of the earliest victims here, is the only person we see start crying while they're still under. So maybe it's not perfected yet. And it required the specific skill set of the mom's hypnosis and Dean's neurosurgeon capacity to like get it to the point where it was at. Where like it required that synapse fire to wake Andre up.
Yeah.
Also, I love when they're talking about Chris and his trauma with how he blames himself for his mother's death and how like he associates feeling powerless with watching TV and
Yeah.
how
That is
like
full circle. Yep.
and how like the sunken place visualizes itself for him as him looking at a TV screen. And then again, when he's in the pre-op room, he's powerless, slacked over, sunken placed, staring at a TV. Like the screens, you know, it's this movie's so goddamn good. Oh my god. Devin, you have any final thoughts on a letter grade? Or do you have more to say before we do that?
Oh, letter grade A. 100%. It didn't really take much thinking
I
about
love
it.
how casual that letter grade A. Moving on.
Yeah, I think that definitely like the thing that stuck out the most was like his comment in that video about how like similar horror and comedy are. Just like, and one you want to scare people, and one you want to make people laugh, and like I don't know, just like the complexness of like the actual like horrific story going on here with like body molding, and then like obviously like the much larger social issue plot point as well. I do think that that's just a beautiful marriage, and like it's probably the best movie I've seen do something like that. As far as like how like almost black and white and separate they are, but also like I'd say like used his tactics throughout the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I absolutely hear what you're saying. I think that there's a the literal narrative and the metaphorical narrative coexist so poignantly
Yeah.
and so exceptionally well. I do think it stands head and shoulders in its own realm in that regard. If that's all you got, Devin, since I know you got a split here, I'll wrap the rest of the show up.
Oh, thank you.
Uh,
But yeah, dude.
Pluggables real quick before I kick you out.
Yeah, Instagram, Devin J. Armel, and Twitter, Devin Armel1. Can I hear your letter grade real fast?
Oh, A+. For all of the reasons I've been opining about. We didn't even talk much about the score, but the music is
beautiful.
incredible. It's incredibly shot. Everything about this movie is incredible. Like, this is an A+ movie, and I don't think you can make any bones about it. So yeah, that's Get Out. Next one will be Us.
Super excited to come back again for Us and be like, I don't know, we're kind of like getting back into the sync and the groove of like the podcast because it's been a minute since we've got the chance to really film and like talk. So
that it has been. I'm gonna bump Devin and I'm going to wrap the show up. See you later, buddy.
See you guys.
Handsome bastard right there. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552, and you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website, www.nerdacademypodcast.com. Yeah, or if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon page.
Give it down!
Speaking of our Patreon, thank you to our $10 alumnus, your friendly neighborhood onogynecologist. I'm going to say it like that until you change it, Paco. Nick Johnson, the Waffle Wizard, and Delta 9. Book of Boba Fett coverage is coming to a close. We're going to have our episode about the finale, and then we're going to do our season review, hopefully as a live stream. And then after that, we'll finally get to the Versus tournament. Schmoedown Awards on number one contender this week, so stay tuned for all of that. Go to our student store link on our website for our TeePublic.
Sure, tpublic.com.
Thank you all so very much for watching and listening, and cut.